welcome to the Accidental Fatherhood podcast with James and Ash. We started this podcast because there isn't a lot of support out there for us guys. We're going through a pretty tough time right now.
Yeah, accidents, not mistakes.
Unplanned pregnancies and new relationships and what is going on with our lives. So we're trying to bring a little bit of support through some awesome special guests, and
It's a place to commiserate together.
And we are rolling. Welcome everyone to our podcast. You're here with James and Ash, and another very special guest today is Allan. Allan, would you like to give us a little brief intro about who you are and why you're on this podcast today?
Who I am? Oh, I think I'm a bit of a bastard, really. As far as what I do for a living.
Like our children.
Yeah, I think we're straight to the point. Of what I do for a living? Are you guys?
Sorry.
Take two.
No, keep going.
Look, as you know, James, I'm a therapist. I've been a musculoskeletal therapist for about nearly 40 years. So that sort of gives away my age a little bit. I also work in a medical school teaching anatomy, so I hang out with dead people a lot of the time. And
Sounds like fun.
I like the living and the dead. And so I work with medical students in small groups, help sort of developing how to start thinking like doctors. That's where I've come from today, and I love it. I love what I do, and I just have this crazy sort of. I've never thought of it as a career, but it's what I do. So it's a nice balance between a space of working with people one-on-one and that intimacy in a space and getting to know people, and then working in groups, and then hanging out, learning anatomy with students and loving that.
Yeah. And I've had personal experience with those hands of yours. Everyone I know, I'm just like, you have to see Allan. He is the best massage therapist I have had in my whole life. Like
Thanks, man.
Where all the muscles are, everything. So, and I've had a lot of massages, and you are the number one in my book. Anyway,
send me your bank details. I'll transfer the money straight away. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. But the real reason I thought you would be a great guest for us today is because you've been in a similar boat to us.
Yeah.
Twice. Why? Was it twice?
Yeah. Well, I'm married second time round.
Yep.
But when I was reflecting, about my first child, Liam, who's now nearly 23 next month, that was unplanned, and that was made in India. So I always have the joke, made in India, Australian owned, because it was born here. And we were, everything I say is pretty crude, but it's sort of like, when in India, a lot of people are procreating in India, and Liam wasn't on the plan. We were sort of travelling through India and heading north into the Himalayas. And then my first wife fell pregnant, and it was like, okay, change of plans. And it was like, no, back to England, then back to Australia. And, this may not go down well with my ex-wife, my first wife, but I feel like she was probably not really ready to be a mother. I don't think she had that real natural maternal instinct.
How old were you both?
I was in my 30s, so mid-30s. And early 30s, actually. I think I was 33, yeah. And so that was a challenge, because we came back to Australia starting from scratch, being away from nearly 5 years, in Europe and mostly in England, but in Africa and Greece and a few other countries where we lived, and in India. And so it's interesting because my wife now, my current wife, and I should say second because I feel like I should be on my third, be counting. But she's a beautiful mum, and she was just wanting to be a mum. And so, but we'd only met for a month before we started a family, and that was Archie. So
it's quicker than us.
Yeah.
Not that it's a competition.
No.
Yeah.
No. So there's hope for us.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
and that's 15 years, together now since then.
Yeah.
So
So there's definitely hope for us.
Definitely.
I hope so.
Alex is just sitting right here. Yeah, awesome. So tell us what was going through your mind when you found out she was pregnant. Like, what was going on for you? How did you feel?
First or second?
The first one.
Oh, the first one? It's a bit of, shit, like what, we didn't plan for this. We're in India, and that's just changed the game. And
it's like, this isn't something I ate, was it? This is why I'm feeling sick?
Yeah, but Indian. But, and it
Quick, eat some spicy food.
For a natural abortion.
I don't think that works. India's like one of the most overpopulated countries. I don't think it's the spicy food.
I don't think that works at all. It's interesting. We were together for about 2 or 3 years. So versus, and then had a child unexpectedly together versus my wife now that we're only together for a month and, had a child unexpectedly. So it was a different sort of scenario.
Yeah, well, I feel like because you've had a child before and you've been through that, this, even though it was only a month, it probably wouldn't have been as much of a shock to your system as being younger and this is the first child. It's like, whoa, like this is a big deal.
Yeah, and look, I do remember what I was thinking when my wife now, Alex, told me she was pregnant. She was actually in the Singapore airport. What's it called? The Changi Airport. And she called me. She did a pregnancy test, and she just called me over the phone, and I'm pregnant. And it was just like, okay.
Here we go again.
Yeah, here we go. And I went, look, if this is the worst thing that's going to happen in my life, to have a child, then I'm doing all right. And so I'm a sort of naturally responsible person. I grew up in a family business. I sort of took responsibility on at an early age. So it didn't enter my mind to not go through with it. Well, for her, it was Alex's choice, obviously, for her to go, and she really wanted to start a family. So it was one of those things that I'll run with it. I'll be responsible. I didn't know we were going to try. We were going to get together, but
yeah. What was the contraceptive technique you chose that night?
Clearly not good enough. I think it was just on cycle, and it just
that bites us in the arse every time.
Yeah, bites you in the arse.
That's 3 people here, or 4 really, where the cycle has not worked, guys. So
yeah.
For all those young men out there listening, going, the girlfriend's just counting her cycle. Do not rely.
It is not reliable.
No deal.
Yeah.
No deal. But it's pretty hard to hold back from, the moment sometimes. So, as we all know.
We know. We've discussed it. We can all concur that it feels much better. So, yeah. Anyway, that's...
Yeah, and what did it do to you guys' relationship when you feel like this is the first one and you realised you were pregnant? And how did you guys cope with that? And was she okay? Was she ready to be? You said she wasn't quite ready.
I don't think so. Look, my gut. It was never diagnosed, but I think God forbid she hears this podcast, but she struggled with a bit of postnatal depression.
This is girlfriend number 1. Sorry,
wife number 1.
Wife number 1.
Wife. Yeah.
Yep.
So that was it was tough, neither of us had any immediate family nearby, and I highly recommend having as much family around you as possible, as long as they're useful.
Yeah.
They're actually helpful, because some can not be helpful and interfere. So from what I hear, but my family live in Perth. My wife's family, my first wife's family were English. They lived in England. So we didn't have anyone but friends and, just friendships to rely upon. And we were sort of one of the first in our tribe to have children. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but, when you're the first, you're sort of, you're in your own loop. You're not sort of connected. People sort of try to empathise and understand what it's like to be a parent and to be at the, the mercy of sleeps and
But they got no
routine.
idea, do they?
The trendsetter, Alan.
Yeah.
And I know being on the opposite side of that because all of my friends now have kids, and I'm the last man standing, kind of thing. And well, not all my friends. I've got a couple that don't, but all my main circle of friends have kids, and I've noticed them drop off. I've never felt lonelier in my life because they've all got kids and they don't have time to just have a really solid friendship to catch up all the time. They just do not have that. They're having enough, struggle just keeping everything together at home and at work, and the new family, and it's hard. So I've noticed a lot of my friendships, they're still there, but they're not in your life as much as you would love them to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to imagine you being pregnant and having the child. Probably everyone was going, haven't heard from Allan for a while, and probably feeling like he doesn't want to see us anymore, or he's all in the. But it's a lot of work, isn't it?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hands-on, and it's a lot of juggling. We were both working, and luckily we work. We sort of I had my private practice, so I was home a lot. Working from home, but it was still. Yeah, it just was it's pretty relentless. When you drop the tools, the work tools, you're on parenting tools, and as I still steal that phrase from the Billabong, only a parent knows the feeling. Really, you can love nephews and nieces and pets, a lot, and I get that to a point, but it's just not the same as loving your DNA in front of you. I think that's my
Someone
experience.
Explained it to me. It's like the before the birth of Christ kind of thing. It's like before Christ and after Christ. It's like your life is completely BC. It's completely different, and your life's going to change forever. Yeah.
And I listen to my med students talking about their life now and how tired they are, and I'm just going, you got no fucking idea what you're talking. Tired? You don't know the depth of tiredness that you will experience, and they're just, I'm tired, I'm back to routine, and I have to go to lectures, and God bless them, they're probably going to hear this as well, but it's just one of those things that I know what you sort of, you're me, you start with me, and then you're we with your partner, and then you're us, that's how I look at it. And it's a transition, and everyone goes through it, and it's fine to feel that way, and you can't experience what it's like to be a parent till you are. So, yeah.
How did you go with work and juggling that? Because I know that, like, if I work from home, it's just, there's no door, like, there's no boundary there.
Yeah.
It's my partner will fly in and go, need you to look after the bub.
Yeah.
So I'll be, like, taking work calls. So you were running a practice, I'm assuming massage.
Yeah, massage therapy, yeah. So, look, I was lucky in that way because my first wife was a therapist as well. So that didn't interfere too often, and sometimes Liam would walk in to the therapy room and people would love that, to a point. But and then, with my younger kids now from my second marriage, when they were young, I could still sort of parent by just proximity, being in another room. But if they needed something, they'd just knock on the door and poke their head around, and sort of like the idea of them seeing me working and knowing what I did, for part of my living, that I just didn't just disappear for 8 or 9 hours and then come back and, hello.
Yeah, but what were you up to, at least that curiosity is,
Have you got any tips or insight for people juggling that with a new family that you could remember? Something looking back that really helped you, especially probably with more so your first wife.
Right. So
because I'm assuming that was quite challenging from what you've said.
Oh, look, the first thing that comes to mind is the calling on a few mates, and it happened very organically where, in fact, I'm catching up with both of them tonight watching the footy, the AFL. Mark and Tim, I was a couple of years ahead of them, but one night we just went, I just need to get out of the house. Someone was in a crisis, either in the relationship or the kids. And so we started meeting at the alley down at Currumbin on the park there of a night, Friday, just take a 6-pack. We played music. We'd play a bit of music, have a chat, and it was sort of like a debrief, and it was therapy. It was male therapy. And without going into, it went on for years, that therapy, and it was like, it was very organic. We wouldn't sort of say, oh, every Friday night. It was just like, ring each other. Look, I need to get out. I've had a shit week, and we go, all right, and we just meet up, and we just got so much out of it, debriefing with man to man.
Yep.
And in fact, it wasn't a bitch session, or in fact, I used to come home really feeling grateful for my partner and actually a bit more connected in a way. I didn't sometimes download. It was sort of what's said in that little patch of grass stayed
And
there.
you're like, I thought my situation was bad.
Yeah. But then it was, strangely enough, it became, it just went around. So the next time it was like my turn. I was going through I was just having a shit time, and it just naturally went around. But we started telling people about our other male friends, and they all wanted to join in. And we had gatherings up to 40 men, and then their sons and our sons, who were old enough to sort of look after themselves. They could run around and they didn't need, us to chase them. And we ended up calling it the secret brotherhood of the blah blah. And it was actually really special and really natural. It wasn't a debrief. It wasn't a men's group. It was a gathering of men just having a beer, and we played live. A lot of us were musos, and we played live music. We had people, we had magicians come who were travelling by doing magic shows. But we had our younger boys with us, and now they're fathers. They're in their 30s, and they're saying, we want to bring back the blah blah. We really miss it, and they remember it from their either 7 or 8 or teenage years. And it's like, really? You really want to keep this going? So we feel like the elders now.
Yeah, and I know because Damo and Adrian and Shadow, they all catch up and they have a beer and they do exactly that. And I think it's a really good thing for...
They do it on a Tuesday morning, though.
Not always a Tuesday morning. But they have a beer and they basically talk about, who's had, almost like who's had a shittest week. And whether it's work or whatever, but I think just unloading and talking to your mates and having someone listen and, not feel alone, I think is really, really a good thing for friends and guys to do.
Well, it's like this podcast too. When we first started this, I was getting messages all the time, and you can contest to this. Like James, like my Tish would be at home. She's like, "Can you hurry up and get home?" And now, like, as I show up a lot better afterwards, and I'm at home, and I really reflect on what I'm doing at the moment. And so now it's almost like Tisha's like, "Can you do another podcast?" Like,
you need your therapy.
Yeah,
you need to take your meds.
Yeah, so it is good. So that's awesome insight.
Yeah, stay connected to those that know what you're going through, and they were going through the same thing. Their kids were just a few years younger.
Yeah, and ladies, if you're listening. To the partner that's in the room. It's really important, I guess, too, to allow the guys to do that, because that's like, it is a lot, like speaking on behalf of my partner, it's a lot for her to let me do this every once a week. So she's at home now with our 10-month-old, and she's feeding, bathing and putting her to bed all by herself, and it's a challenge for them to allow us to do it. So,
but what for her is it? But is it better for your relationship if you do this? Like you guys are better.
I think we're much better off me doing this or doing something similar every week, and coming back more invigorated to help out, do extra stuff.
You're doing exactly what we're doing. I mean, you created this organically from your circumstance, and this is exactly the same number. You're just doing it with a bit more tech around us,
and recording it.
And recording it.
Yeah.
So it was therapy. It was medication. And I think I came back a better father. Sometimes I got insight in how to handle things or be a better father, a parent, a better husband. And, it's hard not to compare yourself to your friends and see how they parent and how they deal with their children and how patient they are, and
definitely.
Yeah, because so you kind of learn from each other as well as relieving that pressure. You don't explode at home.
Yeah.
You can kind of let that pressure out a little bit and also learn from each other. So that's what
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
much.
what I'd say. Just get as much sort of support and understanding from people you really trust and admire. And these guys I love to bits. They're brothers to me. So I respect them, and they've all been through now. They're all, going through fairly either a recent separation or they've been, separated for a long time. And it's nice to have a past together. We've been through, relationships and their children are grown up now. And, but I'm still raising two younger ones, 12 and 14.
So going back to a little bit change of the subject, going back a little bit further, obviously that didn't work out with your first wife and you had to co-parent your first child. What was that like?
Really hard, really hard. In fact, this is the conversation I was having with my 23-year-old a few days ago from Wales over the phone. So not ideal to have this conversation where he finally decided to unload with me what it was like to be in that situation with, a new partner, a baby on the way, and co-parenting was, when we were separated, was really tricky. In the end, I said to him, I felt like I had two wives and two families, and I was juggling between the two. And there was 9 years between the difference between, my eldest son and my middle child. Well, my new son from the second marriage, it was like, what would my eldest son like to do versus what my younger son would do. And it was just this conflict of, well, he doesn't want to do that and Archie needs to sleep, but my 9-year-old wants to go out and, go to the beach or, and I was like, well, I can't do that. And so it was really challenging to orchestrate that or balance that. And then you've got the two partners, and the ex-wife and the wife, and they were very different people, very different, and very different parents, so did struggle a lot with that. And thankfully, one's out of the picture. I don't really have to negotiate with her anymore because my son's old enough now. I don't really have to connect with her in any way.
And what was the hardest part about that relationship? Was it navigating that with your ex-wife or just the juggling of the children? Or was it a little bit of both? A bit of both,
just different parenting styles. It was hard. It wasn't easy to parent together when we were together. And then when we're separated, it was like, I think children really know how to divide and conquer. They'll go for the parent that will give them what they want. And that's fair, that's their deal. That's what we do, So, but sometimes it was just two different camps and two different sort of
styles of parenting
and boundaries and values. And my son said the other day, actually, which was one of the nice things to hear, is that all my values, I've got come from you, Dad. And that felt great because I think he's got great values.
Not by
Can we delete that? That sounds so self-absorbed, but anyway.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
If I do say so myself.
Thanks, son. But look, you don't hear a lot from your kids sometimes. It's a pretty ungrateful, job for a long time, till you hear some feedback like that. He's old enough now to say, hey, this is what you were good at and this is what you could have done better. And he gave me a bit of that feedback too, which was I could have been a better pal than a parent. And I was like, I struggle with that because
I'm your parent.
And I set boundaries and I'm happy to be your pal now. That's what I aim for. Like if you want to be my friend or mentor, whatever, but I really I purposely just didn't want to be his pal, his friend, while I was parenting him. That will come later, as I'm hoping it's happening now as we speak.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I guess there's no right or wrong way,
Well, he found it like I could have done. His feedback was I could have been more of a pal. Yeah. So clearly, I sort of didn't meet up to that,
And does he know about him coming into the world unexpectedly?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, he will now.
I think so, yeah. Or get a tattoo on his backside saying made in India and the other cheek Australian.
We do say accidents, not mistakes.
Yeah. Oh, look, they're blessings to me. Like I can't imagine my life without my kids now. Like I had 2 days off earlier this week because both kids were at camp. My wife went to Brisbane to work for the week, take advantage of that. And as much as I love my own space, my company, I can hang. It felt strange to be in a home without family. It just was weird. But
Yeah.
I was like, or I'm only doing this for 2 nights, so I can handle that. You know.
Yeah, right. So it's like a void.
It feels like a void. Once you're a parent, it's really, unless you just don't want to be a parent, you're out. You know, you just out of the picture. It's pretty hard to.
Well, I guess
can't turn
it's
it
that
around.
contrast of when you have the kids, it's
Yeah.
just like so much,
Yeah.
you know, like it's so much work that you see
fills
that
the space.
Yeah, it fills a huge space. Yeah.
It's what's that? Is that your phone?
It is my phone.
After all the stick he gave us,
I can't turn
At
that one
the
off. It's the
start.
office phone.
oh, I don't want to hear it, James. Shall we just let it ring out?
Yeah, just let it ring. We had this chat a while ago when we had the phone ring, remember?
Did we?
Yeah, and we talked about the scam artists.
Oh
ringing out.
yeah. Did we cut that out?
No, we didn't cut it out.
That's all right. We can leave everything
Because
in.
it's actually
totally
true.
fine.
I'm not being racist in any way. It's what happens.
Well,
But we'll cut it out.
I get called out. I'm accidentally racist. That's another conversation.
It is.
An accidental racist
Yeah, and a father.
and an accidental father.
Well, I say this to my brother-in-law all the time. It's like I'm Australian and I've been brought up in the 80s and the 90s, and it's like you don't know how racist you are until you find out. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe that what I said was racist. Yeah, shit. Anyway, yeah. So it's
There's
cool.
a new
We talk
podcast
about-
for you.
It's a
Accidental
whole
racist.
I think they'll
Coming
attract
soon.
the wrong crowd.
Coming soon. Accidental fatherhood.
All the
Brings
rednecks.
you. Yeah. Accidental racist.
So you mentioned, and I don't know if you want to talk about this because it might be a touchy subject, but you mentioned your first wife. You think that she suffered a little bit from postnatum. How was that? How did you bring that up? Was it a subject well received? Because, you know, I want to relabel it at the moment because I feel like, you know, I not only had a touch of experience with this, I don't think my partner's got it, but, you know, like we thought maybe she did, and it was like, you know, and I raised the subject, like maybe you do have it, and it's like that did not go down well at all. And it was like, you know, it's like she's like, I'm just tired, like, and it's like, yeah, okay. And then even this podcast, I realized it's like, yeah, she hasn't had any sleep for 7 months. Yeah, she is tired,
Exhausted.
She's exhausted. So fair enough, uppercut to myself there. But how did you navigate those waters? Yeah, any insight there for people that may? It's challenging, right?
Look, it's probably unfair of me to even say that she had postnatal depression. I mean, I think there's levels and of it, and exhaustion and sleep deprivation. And, you know, Liam was pretty crap sleeper for 2 years. It's like, you know, so that can put anyone into feel a bit crazy. You know, she was a good mum. We all doing our best. It's sort of try to come into my default where we're doing our best
With the tools we have, right?
With the tools and the energy and the, you know, that we have, and I try to fall back on that when I'm just losing it or about to lose it, and but you know, I can compare two mothers, right, in my life, and I really do think Alex would have, if she'd met me earlier, she would have had probably 5 children, been quite happy with that, you know. She loves being a mother. I see it every day, you know, and I love watching her being a mum, and it's yeah, and she's good at it most of the time, like, you know, and, you know, I haven't been nominated for any Father of the Year awards. I'm still waiting for that, right? But it's probably not going to happen in this lifetime. Maybe as a grandfather I'll be, you know, a decent grandfather, you know, but yeah, so I didn't really broach it with her. It's just, we just head down, ass up, and just get on, you know, do our best. And it did take a toll obviously on the relationship, you know. We separated when he was about 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're stuck in there.
You
guys gave it a red hot crack.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And we grew apart. You know, we weren't the same people that we met when we met each other, and just a different dynamic was going on. And I think the two things that sort of that really affect a relationship is trust and respect.
Yeah.
And we sort of lost that for each other.
Do you think becoming a father that sort of made you guys grow apart? Like, because I know me as a dad is a completely different person to me pre-dad. And it's like, so like I focused, and I'm lucky, like my partner, and we had that conversation really early on, like within the first couple of weeks of dating, like, oh, I think you would be a good mum, you know, so I'm not too stressed about you counting the cycles. In saying that, I wasn't expecting it this quickly, but you know, and she's an awesome mum. But yeah, do you think that may have changed you upon reflection? Like, is that something that you think, you know, how, like you said, you grew apart? Do you think that maybe that's because you stepped it up, I guess, as a dad and really grew into the dad thing, and then maybe, you know, it was not as well received? Or maybe, I don't know, like something that has come up a couple of times in the podcast is, you know, dads often will go, okay, I've got to provide, so I'm going to go work, like an extreme. Totally. And then they're not there for the relationship or the child because they're thinking, oh, I'm going to provide. Like, do you think that might have been something that you fell in the trap of? Or
most definitely. I remember when we were like sort of building the nest, we came back to Australia, hadn't been in the country for nearly 5 years, you know, having a baby within sort of 6 months. And it was like, you know, I was full-time a therapist then. And so honestly, anyone that was in arm's reach of me, I started massage. I was just like wanting to
touch everybody,
touch it, you know, don't touch everyone, but also, you know, just make as much money as I could. I just wanted to provide. And it comes natural to me to be responsible. And
just out of curiosity,
yeah.
Who's the most famous person you've given a massage to?
Ooh, am I allowed to say?
Are you allowed to say?
Who's the most famous that you're allowed to say?
Probably
James Colson.
No. Yeah, James. Yeah, James is up there in the top 5. Hugh Jackman, I'd say.
Oh.
Yeah, I turned gay for Hugh Jackman, by the way. I don't think he'd turn gay for me, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, but yeah, he's probably the you know, the most famous person, and then lots of Australian celebrities, but internationally, I'd say he would be. There was Nicole Kidman, and what was her partner's name? Her husband's name?
Tom Cruise.
No, not Tom Cruise. After Tom Cruise, you know the
singer.
The singer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Keith Urban.
Keith Urban. Thanks for audience. Thank you. I had an opportunity to treat them, but I just couldn't be. I was on my holidays and went, can't be bothered. You know, I don't care who it is. I need a holiday.
Yeah.
But they're good people.
And it must be like when you get to it, it's just, you know, it's almost like an organic machine. It doesn't matter who they are, right? It's the same.
It doesn't matter. I honestly enjoy everyone's company. He was a really cool guy and really warm. Sort of feels like what you see, you know, in interviews, and that is genuine. Yeah. And in fact, I'd met his wife, Deborah Lee Finesse, in a physiotherapy clinic where I worked in Melbourne, you know, nearly 40 years ago, when she was at the top of her sort of acting career, and she had broken an ankle from a motorbike injury on a set, and she was seeing my mate Brett, my mentor Brett, for physio. So it was sort of like, you know, she didn't remember me from a bar of soap, but, you know, it was like, we've met. Like, I don't care. But, yeah, they're a cool couple.
Yeah.
No,
this is Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman. Yeah.
What's the age difference there?
It's not that big.
It's not huge, but
he's
maybe
just
10
aging.
years.
He's just aging really well.
He's aging gracefully. Yeah, he's got a body of a Greek god. Yeah. Amazing.
Hopefully he hears this.
He's got fast healing factor because he's Wolverine, right?
Oh, yeah. I knew there was going to be a Wolverine reference there. I just knew it.
Yeah. He's awesome.
James's favourite.
He's awesome.
Your favourite or Phil's?
No, Phil's, but still.
Is he? Okay. Yeah.
Nice.
Love Wolverine. No. Anyway.
So they massaging Hugh Jackman way better than massaging dead people?
I don't massage dead people, no. Oh. I wouldn't go there. They don't give much feedback and...
Bit stiff.
And they're... Yeah.
No happy endings.
But I have treated a few people that I felt like there's, it wasn't muscle spasm, it was rigor mortis that had set in. So, there was, there's sometimes the other way around. There's been a bit of stiffness going on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do we go from there?
Back to the living.
Yeah. Killer conversation.
Is that a pun?
Full of them.
Where do we go to?
Well, I think...
What's the second? So your second wife.
Yeah.
So you sort of admitted that you went into your work when you found out that you were pregnant, and you built your space, and then
Yeah,
there was
the nest.
9 years apart from that. So obviously, well-established business that you had. Did you feel like being already set up and having your next child was much easier to cope with and deal with? Do you think that?
Yeah, well, look, it was my second child and Alex's first child. So that was like, navigating that. The main thing for me, I think, being a father the first was that I wanted the mother to stay if we could afford it.
Yep.
We could survive on one income, and they could be, if they wanted to be, stay-at-home mum and, just fully parent. And I was great with, I was good with that because I just, ideally, I think, no one loves your child more than your own, more than yourself. So the thought of childcare at 6 weeks or sometimes, wasn't a thing for me.
Yeah.
And so, I think that there was a lot of pressure on in those early years, to be the provider and to be, just be the provider and then have the energy to come home and parent and partner. And I think the demise of my first relationship, my first marriage, was the fact that we just didn't have enough energy for each other.
Yeah.
After work and the kid and it was just, we just didn't have the energy.
Yeah, because she was working too.
She started working too, and we didn't have any family, not much respite, apart from mothers groups, and so, and a lot of our friends hadn't had children, so we didn't have that sort of understanding, that support network. They came on, a few years later, but you've done a lot of the hard yards in the first couple of years.
Yeah, yeah.
But it changes. It's not the same. It's different. Like, you think you've done the hard yards, but then it's a different type of hard yards, and then different type, and then teenage years. But it is what it is,
Were they all very different, the children, when you, as babies? Were they all quite, very unique? Or were they quite, were some easier than others, or were they all fairly... Do you remember the...
Yeah. I think if you remember...
Daffodils or dandelions.
I think if you remember too much, you wouldn't have another child. It's funny how you just...
I only remember the good times.
You survive that and, let's go for another one. And my second wife wanted to have a second child, so Archie would have a closer sibling than, his, my first son. And so that was the only child we planned. But can I think of who was easier? Honestly, can't remember.
That's good.
It's a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
And you just get on with it. Whatever's easy, whatever's hard, there are patches, and they're all different. Like my eldest son was a biter, when he got into, in some of those preschools or those kindies, and he was biting other kids, but the other ones weren't, and they all have their different sort of challenges and styles, and they're really different children now. Like, I can see their personalities, out there, and they're very different.
Yeah.
So go figure.
Yeah.
And when did Liam move overseas? Or is he just travelling at the moment?
No, well, he's lived in Sri Lanka for nearly coming up to 5 years, and so he lined up the job on the internet.
Yep.
An interview. Aussie guys who owned this surf camp. He's a surf instructor, videographer, photographer, and he's just made things happen there. And he's currently in Wales. I think fallen for a Welsh girl that he met in Sri Lanka, but he's coming back to Sri Lanka, I think, in October. So
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah. It's good. He's living a life, and living an adventure and learning a lot about himself and relationship. But I think this girl, Maze, he's really solid with her. He said, Dad, I'm really happy. And that's ultimately what you want your kids to feel, and be with someone that they feel vibrant and happy. Yeah, he's really stoked.
And have you seen him recently? Like, when
haven't seen him for 2.5 years or more, probably 3 years.
Thanks to COVID?
A bit of COVID and just
life
and, my responsibilities here and my family here. He's planning on coming over early next year, hopefully. He does miss Oz, and I'd love to see him, but I'm not I don't put any pressure on him to say, hey, time to come home. I just wouldn't do that. I just you need to be there. When there's something in Australia for you to come back to it. If you just want to visit us, great. Whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where's his mum?
Actually in Sri Lanka too.
Oh, okay.
So that's a good thing. They're very close, and it's nice to know that there's family there and something happens. So I'm good with that,
Yeah.
And, I can fully focus, my family here, and that's nice, in some ways.
Yeah.
I miss him. It's like part of you's in another country.
Yeah.
You'll know that, and you'll know that too.
Yeah.
James, when the time comes,
Yeah, I've already said that I don't want my kid to get the travel bug. I'm like, oh man, I hope she doesn't.
Girls do, man. Girls will.
I know.
Yeah.
And I dropped her on the head. Well, I shouldn't say I dropped her on the head. She fell off the bed the other day. I'm like, oh no, she's gone from a lawyer to a bloody air hostie.
Used car salesman.
I went straight to the air hostess. I'm like, that's it. I'm going to see her when she's 23 now.
It's amazing how they really recover really quickly. You freak out the first time they fall off the bed, and you think my child's got brain damage, and you chuck them on the booby and they're right as rain.
Well, my partner wasn't home.
Oh.
So she was working. So my partner's had to go back to work because we weren't set up at all with this pregnancy. So that's sort of hence all the questions. But yeah, so she was at work, and it was like one of my first days, and I've put her on the bed, and she wasn't crawling at this stage, but she was moving around a bit.
Rolling.
And so I've put her on the bed, and I've turned around and just put a jumper on, and I was sitting on a chair, and then she's just managed to sit up for the freaking first time, and then just boom, straight. And I don't even know if I caught her mid-air. It's all a blur, and then I went straight into body checking, and I'm with the torch, checking pupils and stuff. And then, after it all dissipated and stuff, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I've got no idea. I don't know how to do a pupil check. Yeah. What am I doing? And then I'm just looking at her. I rang one of my friends who's got 3 kids. I'm like, this has happened to you. What do I do? Should I go to the hospital? Am I overreacting? And they're like, Judge, you'll be fine. She's just keep an eye on her. That's all. Yeah. That's all they tell you to do.
How old was she?
Probably 6 months.
Yeah.
Or so. And then Tish got home, and I was like, I'll just see if she notices anything different.
It's a twitch in one eye.
I was waiting for do you think she's a bit slower today, babe? I was waiting for that sort of comment, and then she, an hour went past, and I'm like, well, Tish hasn't noticed anything. I was like, oh, hey, babe, I told her, by the way. Yeah. And Tish was like, oh, it's fine, it happens. Yeah. I was like, oh, my God. I thought, It
just happened with you.
Happened.
When you were on duty.
Yeah. So it was challenging. That was a challenging day.
And it is hard because you don't know, they don't communicate. So you can't say, are you okay?
Yeah.
Is anything hurting? They're just crying. I know little Archie fell over a couple of weeks ago, and he fell over on, it was just, just out the front door. It wasn't knocked down any steps or anything. It was just bang, fell over, got up, and feels like, oh, he's fine. But he's going, Archie, he was really upset about it. It's like, kiss it better. Kiss the arm better. And Phil goes, yeah, all good. And he goes, no, kiss it better. It's like, he doesn't usually say, keep kissing it better. It must really, I don't know what he did. And he felt the arm. Is like, I know, it feels fine. Fine. They went for a walk and thought nothing of it. And then when Phil went to the daycare or the wherever they take the kids, childcare.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to tell them everything that's been happening, just so they're aware of everything that's happening, so they take no kind of
responsibility
for anything that's gone wrong. So
sign here.
Yeah, sign here. What has happened? And it mentioned that he fell over and he hurt his arm. And then that day they saw that he wasn't using his arm very much. And like, you know, Archie isn't using his arm very much. So ended up taking him to the hospital. And he had a green break or a green fracture.
Green stick fracture.
Yeah. So they had no idea, but he was out of sorts for the next few days after that fall, and he was like inconsolable and quite, you know, a bit crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just reminds me how much, you know, the parents are the first healers in your children's life. You know, they're kissing it better. I say that to my medical students. The first healers you've ever met, therapists you've ever met, are your parents. It's amazing what a kiss will do, right? How magical is that kiss, you know, to pretty much heal so many things, but breaks, green sticks, no, definitely not.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many parents are out there that have not taken their kids to hospital with fractures. I'm one, you know, you sort of watchful wait and you go, all right, it's not getting better. Maybe we need to investigate this a little bit more. So it's pretty normal. It's hard to tell, as you say, because of the communication isn't there, and to say it actually hurts, you know, to move my wrist or whatever. You know, you say, where's it hurting your tummy? And they'll go, here. You know, here. Whatever. It's just like, you know.
Even with myself, I'm like, I'll just see if I'm okay in a couple of days. I could give it a couple of days and see if it's not any better, I'll do something. But yeah.
Well, I am an advertisement for pushing for an X-ray because I've got a busted hand. Because I broke my hand or my wrist, and it was like a hairline fracture, and the doctor didn't X-ray it. And then 6 months later, it started to really hurt, and there's a cyst growing out of the fracture in my hand, and they can't operate because they'll do more damage.
Is this recent?
This is 2 years or 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
I usually wear a brace, but I've got to get a new one made up.
Wow.
So, yeah, it sucks.
In a bone, a carpal bone?
Man, I don't know.
You don't know?
The ulnar? Is it the ulnar?
Okay.
At the tip?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Just at the end of your...
the wrist? It's like there's something growing out into like, I don't know, man.
Is it like a bone spur? Or?
It hurts here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's non-stop.
Wow.
It sucks. So if you've got any tips, feel free to help a brother out.
Maybe.
Feel free.
Yeah, okay.
So, and the worst thing is
like I do an appointment.
I will. The worst thing is I do like I get assessments on it, and anyway, they're like, nah, look, you can full range. I'm like, yeah, but always. So I'm a child. Do you do talking about massage?
Yeah.
Do you do pregnancy massage?
I do occasionally.
Okay.
And I love it. I think it's a real honour and it's a privilege. And I don't think, with all respect to women out there, I think, seeing a pregnant woman is one of the most beautiful forms of a woman you'll ever see, you know. And, my Pilates instructor's pregnant, and one of the girls in my Pilates group is 40, nearly due. If I don't see her next class, because we've got the Queen's birthday grieving.
Queen's birthday.
Oh, sorry, Queen's, not the birthday. Queen's day of mourning. Oh, my God.
All those English listeners are going to go, oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
And then we get to celebrate a birthday. They're not taking that away from us.
No.
Woo.
Yeah. I just think it's beautiful. And I don't see that many.
Queen died.
The Queen died. No. pregnant women to massage them and to help them. But, it just depends what stage of gestation they're in, whether they can lie down or be seated or lying sideways. Yeah, it's great.
Now, Allan, settle something for me. Is it, because my partner was, when she was pregnant, I was like, I don't want to push because you can push too hard, right? In certain spots. So she was like, can you massage me? I've got like really tight shoulders,
around
really tight back
abdomen?
or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, well, I hate massage. I can't massage. It throws my hand out. So I'm like doing elbows and stuff. And I'm like, there's no way I'm touching you. Is there any tips for guys? I mean, or do you recommend seeing get us all off the hook here, Al?
Yeah.
And recommend seeing professional?
Look, ideally, probably it's going to be more comfortable for them to be, on a sometimes that, they're a pregnancy mat so they can lie comfortably on their stomach, which is pretty rare. So look, ideally, book a massage, pay for their treatment, some sort of spa treatment with someone experienced and specialises in it. But really, massage and bodywork can be pretty bomb-proof. Like, the baby is extremely well protected and pretty hard to, if your intention isn't to harm the baby, it's unlikely you ever will. But if you intend to, of course, it'll make you could, you possibly could, but I've never heard of a therapist.
Okay.
Especially from the back. If you're massaging the back and the shoulders, there's very unlikely.
Because the girls, they go through a lot, hey, and they have to carry.
Well, and the whole structure changes. Like Alex is
centre of gravity changes.
Yeah.
Poor Alex is going through a bit of just pain at the moment, lower back and pelvis, and you've been treating her as well.
Yeah, and I have been, and it's look, I don't know that I haven't had that experience, obviously, but things are softening and widening and just getting ready, especially as you're getting closer to the day. There's joints that are starting to sort of. There's a hormone called relaxin that that you release too, so your pelvis does open up and allow your baby to pass through your pelvis. But my first child was an emergency cesarean. Mm-hmm. So we went from a home birth with a lovely midwife, doing it in my practice room. We had the pool set up to, she's not dilating enough. Plan B, we didn't even know we ended up going to Tweed. We were planning to go to Murwillumbah, but their theatres were closed. They were getting some sort of renovation or something repaired. So I was like, now we're going to Tweed. We didn't even check out Tweed. And you can have a birth plan, all good, well and good, but how the baby has the ultimate plan in its hands or, going, this is the way I'm going to come into real life. It's interesting. I think I went off topic there, but that's all right.
That's all on topic.
Yeah.
Did you have any more home births?
No, they were all actually the last two. My wife, my second wife, my current wife had two at Murwillumbah Hospital, and she, Archie, her first child, I think she had two or three pushes, and it was crowning, and it was done and dusted really quickly. She's pretty competitive, my wife. Fast game's a good game in their family. So she was a natural mother from the get-go, from carrying the baby to birthing the baby and Archie and parenting. So, and Lucy was pretty much the same, but just later in the day, in the afternoon. So it was just a longer day. It was a bit more tiring. They were both hospital births, but natural, no very little intervention.
How were they both during the pregnancy? Did you find how they, like their personality or how they, because of everything that's going on for their body and the hormones, did you find them acting any differently than they usually would?
No, not really. Not great. Other than fatigue and tiredness, and they didn't turn into sort of horrible, overly horrible people. Not any more than I can with not resting or being tired. So not that it really stands out. Things that stick with you remember, and I don't remember that being a horrible thing to go through.
Yeah.
Why do you ask, James?
Yeah, James, what do you have to unload?
Just curious. Just curious.
Yeah.
I guess some people have trouble with the pregnancy. Like some people struggle a lot, like have morning sickness every day. I know.
Yeah.
My mum, when she had us, she had morning sickness every day, and she's like, something's wrong here. I don't know. I didn't have when I had my first brother, or her first child, is like I wasn't sick every day. Like there's something different going on with this one.
Twins.
But I can't. Twins. But I can't imagine, how that feels to be nauseous every single day. It must feel horrible.
my first wife was, as I said, Liam was conceived in India, and we ended up in Pune on our way to Mumbai to get back to England. But we had to spend a month in Mumbai, and she was throwing up 3 or 4 times a day in the apartment. She never left the apartment for a month because the smells of India, just even for Indian women, they struggle. They get so your sense of smell is so heightened. When you're pregnant, apparently, and so she lost 8.5 kilos. Which was handy because I was in excess luggage when we checked in out of Mumbai, and I got 8.5 kilos off my excess luggage allowance. So I saved a bit of money. That was the bonus there. And my wife, when we were sort of hanging out, that month, there was a few times where she was like, I don't feel well, like I felt a little bit nauseous, and it did enter my mind. Could be pregnant, and I just wanted to throw that straight, in the bin, bin that. But sure enough, that was what was going on.
So this was when you found before you found out.
Yeah, before I found out, she had a few moments where she was a bit queasy, and I went
Indian food.
No, this is in Australia.
Oh.
This is my second wife.
Right.
So it's hard to keep track of my wife. Lebanese. We have many wives.
Could be the wine, then perhaps.
Have I shared this on the podcast before about when so Tish and I was on income protection. I was like, let's just go traveling around Australia. I'm never going to get this chance again because I just lost my job. And so we were both surfing. We were learning how to surf, and like we were both committed to surfing every day. And it was like the one thing that I could find that I could do with my hand because I couldn't do the gym, so it was limited. But anyway, so Tish has just got this new board. And she's out on it all the time. She's like, oh, my nipples are so sore. And it entered my mind too. And I'm like, nah, babe, it's just the board rash. Yeah, it's just board rash. And then, that was denial. And she's like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I think even like when we were in our first trimester, Alex got food poisoning. And we're like, is everything going to be okay? Because I think it can be a little bit of an issue if it's salmonella or something more serious. So we had to go to the hospital and just make sure that everything was okay with her.
Yeah, I think it does enter your mind. My sister's Down syndrome. My younger sister is Down syndrome. So I've come from a background of having a sibling with a disability, and all you pray for is, I'm not deeply religious, but the moments where I have been, where I've sort of asked whatever God's listening in to, just want a healthy, whole child. And, those thoughts will definitely enter your mind because you're out of the loop, so to speak. The mother's carrying the child and we're just observers. And I just, for me, I think that's quite natural to fear some of what you see out there and to fear certain things that may or may not happen.
Affect that. Yeah, because that's one thing you just want 10 fingers, 10 toes kind of thing. And, really healthy, happy. And I say those affirmations as well. When I'm meditating, after meditation, I'll just go, please have a happy and healthy, beautiful baby. I say girl, but I'm happy with whatever I have.
Just be grateful. But it's great, like to see your child come into this world. It will be a great moment in your life. It'll be awesome. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, how did you go with that? So,
the first one looked like an alien coming out of a stomach because it was surreal, like
you had a little bit of prep though too. Like you were okay with the body. I'm assuming that you had seen some stuff already in your training.
Yeah, but I hadn't seen a cesarean, and we had a registrar, Indian lady, who was a bit of a bitch actually. She gave us a really hard time, and because we were trying to do the home birth and she was trying to find out who the midwife was, and we were really vulnerable. Like your first child, you're just at the mercy of, if you need medical support, you're at their mercy and they just want to jump in there. I think things have changed too, in 20 years. Midwives are a lot more involved, and the obstetricians and the medical are only intervene if there's something serious. We had an obstetrician for my second child, Archie, with my wife now, and he just sat in the chair in the corner and just watched it.
ate popcorn.
Yeah, basically I went, great job, mate. You're like, you did fuck all, but you were there just in case. And it was actually a Bond medical student and a midwife that delivered our second child.
Yeah, so we did hypnobirthing with Megan Amore. Out at Currumbin. She was awesome. And when we went to the birthing suite, it was like, they were. So Tish went in there earlier that day, and she's like, "No, I don't know. I feel a little bit uncomfortable at the moment. I don't know, something happened." And they're like, "Oh, babe, Bub's got a bit of an irregular heartbeat at the moment." So, so that had happened the day before, and it was just a passing comment that Tish had made, and it wasn't even anything. Like there was nothing. And then because we were in there that night or that day, or Tish was in there that day, that was on our record. So they're like, "Oh, we got to do constant fecal monitoring." And so Tish was like, "Oh, okay, I'll consent to that." And when we first got in there, and like you listen to this heartbeat, and it's just like boom, 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 like 170 beats per minute. Yeah. And I found the whole energy in the room was elevated because we're listening to this freaking heartbeat. And it got to the stage where we were like, "No, let's just go back to our birthing plan that we had made." And we're like, "Nah, get rid of that. And let's just do our thing." We played soft music and everything. And then once we sort of stepped up and explained to the medical staff that, hey, we sort of know what we want, we know what we're doing, we're educated, they were like, "Oh, okay." They sort of backed off. But the first midwife that took us in was really forceful. Lights.
Camera.
The lights came on. But yeah, so James sorts that out. But yeah, it was very, like you guys don't know what you want, we'll tell you what you want. And then when we actually sort of forced ourselves, so did you guys have much of a birthing plan given your medical background? Or was it more so with, you obviously went home birth, so the first one.
First one was home birth, ended up into the medical emergency cesarean.
Yeah.
So it felt like we're out of control of that situation. The second two were all pretty straightforward, just in a hospital though, but in a, wasn't a 5-star. Moreland Hospital's classic though. It's beautiful in the ward. You get to stay in the ward as long as you like. And we didn't really, we had anything we wanted, but the midwives were great and only intervened when they needed to or supported us basically. Yeah. So it was good. Way better than the first, from Liam, like who just that was surreal because you're in a white theatre, everything's sterile and it's just, it's not hands-on. You're not involved. You're just watching an observer, watching a baby come through the,
When you say hands-on, what does that mean?
Not hands-on as when you're delivering a natural birth, you're a little bit more involved and you can help deliver.
You are?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can be.
Were you involved?
You can catch the babe.
Yeah, man.
I don't know if I'm up for that.
I had a camera in one hand, a torch in my mouth, and like the shower in the other hand. Like,
really?
Oh yeah, and then the
never GoPro on your head.
I tried to do the GoPro, but I made the mistake of not sorting out how to film it. Yeah. And so I'm like trying to stuff around the GoPro and Tisha's trying to just chill out in the bath and she's like, "Shut up." And then so I gave the GoPro up and just shot it on my iPhone.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they're like, "Hold this torch," because they didn't think Tish like went down and she's like, "I'm breaching here." And they're like, "No, you're not." Like her whole pregnancy, Tish was like, "I'm doing this is happening." And they're like, "No, it's a bit too early." And I'm there going, listening to the medical professionals. I'm like, "Yeah, babe, like, you're a bit excited here. Fair enough. First birth, like, but listen to the pros." And she just proved us all wrong every single turn to make us look like an idiot.
She knew what was going on.
She knew exactly what was going on. And then, and she delivered without any intervention at all. So,
that's
which
amazing.
was a massive effort anyway. But the question I wanted to ask, so you said when you see it come out, when you see the bub come out and arrive, you were like was that instant love for you? Because my brother-in-law said, he cried as soon as it happened. He's like, and I wasn't like that. I was like, I still was in a bit of shock, I guess. And I'm like, this hasn't happened yet. Like, this is still not real for me, And so I think I think the message that I sort of want to get across is like it was okay. It's okay for me not to feel like that. And I wondered if there was other people out there that, you know, didn't have that instant connection, or was it for you? Was it just instant?
Somewhere in the middle, I think. I think it's a spectrum, you know, for me. And I think Liam, who was emergency Caesar, was definitely not. I didn't sort of. It wasn't that intimate, close experience. It was just this crazy medical journey, and you had to sort of wait to get hands on and connect with Archie. I don't remember falling in a heap and crying and, you know, just being overwhelmed with emotion.
Yep.
I felt love, and I felt really happy and grateful that my child had, you know, 10 fingers, 10 toes, looked whole from the get-go. Probably a lot of relief, you know, because it is
big build-up.
It's a big unknown, and like we didn't know the sex of the child either. Sort of just quite happy.
Did you know the sex of the child?
Yes.
Yeah, we're trying to wait, but our obstetrician said used the pronoun he the other day.
Yeah.
So that kind of like...
But they could also refer. We did the test.
Them.
They.
Them.
We're having twins. What?
What are your chances of having twins, being a twin?
I don't think it's high. I think it's usually skips a generation. So usually your grandchildren or my child's child will have twins.
I want twins.
I'm
so
still
bad.
trying to work out if I want to be hands-on or like Wizard of Oz behind the curtains.
I think hands-on is...
Did you do hands-on?
Well, I don't think you'll have a choice.
What do you mean?
See what she needs. See what she asked for.
I know.
Because you haven't done any birthing classes yet, have you?
Yeah.
No, it's all a little bit foreign to me.
Are you guys just going to be like, go in for the day and be like, hey, we're pregnant, and then like just hope that they tell you what to do? Or you guys got birthing classes planned? Do you know?
We don't have anything planned at the moment.
The obstetrician? Because we didn't... I don't know.
She's talking to an obstetrician, but I don't think Alex has decided whether it's public or private yet. I think we're going private because we're both privately funded, but I don't know. And I think we'll definitely do some sort of prep.
Yeah.
I'm a planner.
Yeah, you guys are both pretty
planned. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Just don't know if I want to see it all. It's just maybe I do, maybe I don't. At the moment, I'm feeling no. But it depends what Alex wants. But I just don't know. I've seen a few videos. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Get pretty messy.
Gets pretty, bloody shit show, isn't it?
That was a good thing about the hypnobirthing is they showed you all these like really lovely birthing experiences. So you naturally just went, it's going to be okay. You know, like there was no icky stuff. Our pregnancy was great. Like there was nothing too gross. Actually, no, there was nothing gross.
Except for you ate the placenta.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, you're the first person I've met that actually...
Yeah, I got it encapsulated.
Oh, okay.
Encapsulated
you can go get it processed and encapsulated.
It's pretty fun. So, oh man, I never knew what it looked like.
Okay. I know what they look like.
It was fucking gross.
Like a jellyfish.
Yeah. It was
just like a really bad pizza.
Oh man. Yeah, like vomit on bad pizza. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like an organ.
It is. Well, it is. Yeah. It's
like I didn't sit there with a knife and fork and grill it up or anything like an animal. I got it.
Invite your friends over for a barbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always thought it was just the sack.
Yeah.
That they come out in, and it's not.
Yeah.
And anyway, I think that's fine print for the girls too. Like, oh, by the way, you got to birth the placenta after you birth the child, and obviously it's a lot.
Chicks would know all about it though. Girls would know that.
Yeah,
wouldn't they?
In most cases.
Chicks are all over, done the research.
Yeah.
There's us guys.
Because your baby uses it as like a pillow and all sorts of weird shit. So,
but it's their life force, there's their nutrition. And so they, midwives will look at that placenta and check it out because that really tells you a lot about the baby.
That was my first meeting of the placenta.
Right.
Was when the midwife was like, I've just got to check over it. And then she's like, can I grab your camera so I can take a photo of it?
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Placenta pics.
Yeah, I do. They're gross. and then she like they froth on it, like it's like they make it into like a tree, and you can get prints and all sorts of stuff. Like they
Make a heart out of the umbilical cord, right?
They did make a heart out of the
Did you leave the umbilical cord on, like, and let it drop off? Because you can leave it
No, we
attached
weren't that gross. I mean, fair, each to their own. What do they call that? Anyway, lotus birth or something.
Maybe.
So, but we
It
did.
just dies, does it?
Yeah, it drops. It just...
So how many days does that take?
It could take, I think, maybe a week or, you know, just...
So people will like walk around with the placenta on ice down the bottom
With the baby
attached and just let it drop off naturally. So
I can't see you doing that, John.
I can't see we do that either.
We let it.
Alec.
We delayed the cutting and clamping for up to an hour, I think. So we let all the nutrition and stuff go back in, because
All
you
the
can
good
lose.
juices.
They can lose up to like 700 mils of blood. I think it is.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what.
Yeah.
That is
better
just
than
in the placenta, and so basically like you let it turn white, everything's drained back into the baby, because it's like a toothpaste tube, like you birth it, and it's like the vagina actually clamps it, sort of thing, so it stops all the blood that's in there, and it's like that's pushed everything up into the placenta. So we delayed it. I cut it. The midwife went and inspected it, took a photo. That was my first meeting of the placenta, and they said, "What do you want to do with it?" And we're like, "Can you put it on ice?" And they're all familiar with it. They put it in a bucket of ice. So I walked out. We did a turnstile birth.
What's that mean?
In the morning, out in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
What did it smell like?
I didn't smell it.
You can't help but not smell it.
No, well, I had essential oils, and mist. So like the hippie birth, the hypnobirthing is like
New age.
is like part of that. So like I'm in this dark shower trying to hose off Tish, keep her warm and stuff, and relax her, and I'm trying to drop the oils in the bottom of the shower. I didn't know about 30 drops went down, and Tish is like trying to just chill out, and she's like, "Can you stop with the fucking oils?" It was like, so there was the smell in our room was very nice. It was delightful, and there wasn't that much blood until after Tish birthed the placenta. Then there was just blood. It looked like a fucking murder scene. I was like, holy shit, like a massacre.
Did you have any complications, or was that just normal?
No, it was just all normal. So like the placenta
detached.
obviously plugged her, for lack of a better word, and so none of the blood flew out during the birthing. So I'm like, fuck, we've nailed this birth pretty well. Like, well, I did nothing really, but yeah, and then afterwards, like from the journey from the bath the bathroom to the bed, blood just managed to get like everywhere on the walls and fucking like.
Really?
I don't know. It was
Something to look forward to, I guess.
It was weird, man.
Painting you a beautiful picture.
I know.
And then this hippie chick came and picked up the placenta and dropped
Just
off the
sprinkled
capsules.
petals everywhere on the way in.
We buried our placenta in a place called the Garden of Eden, where my first wife used to live, in a hippie sort of commune. So she was a full-on hippie with a job though, which was quite unique. But yeah, right at the base of Currumbin Valley, and we dug a hole and planted a tree, and that was the first one. The other ones we just planted in a pot and planted a citrus. You know, they're quite good fertilizer, apparently really good. So we just planted those, in pot plants, and froze them and then planted them when we were ready. Yeah. But my wife would not go down that path of.
Well, the capsules seem to give a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So to both of us, I don't think there's many men out there that it's aimed for the women and for the kids. Yeah. The whole placenta thing. Yeah. But there's not too many men that do it, but I felt pretty energized after doing it, after taking the capsules.
Is it processed, the placenta, in some way? Do they process the placenta?
I think they freeze dry it.
Yeah.
And then they smash it up and encapsulate it. Okay. And then they put some in a tincture for us as well, so that we've got we've got drops as well if we want to.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of people making placenta pies and stuff, but I didn't
Oh,
know
no,
you could
that's fucked
encapsulate.
up. I wouldn't. Don't come around to anyone's house after they've had a birth for a pie. What's this? Is this steak and kidney?
I've got lots of energy.
Yeah, we feel pumped.
So you dropped Lucy name. So am
Yeah,
I right?
Lucy,
Two
my
boys,
last.
one girl.
Yeah, and she was the planned one,
Yeah.
and that was a different experience because my wife really wanted a second, her second child would be my third. So I was sort of good with two.
Yeah.
But my gut told me if we didn't have a second child together, that would have been a real wedge in the relationship. That would have just separated us. And I mean, I've got no regrets. I'm besotted with my daughter. I think I love her with every, I love her deeply. Like, not that I don't love my other ones. It sounds strange, but there is some weird thing going on there is a thing between, father and daughter. I can't explain it, but it's, it just, she owns me.
Is she a daddy girl? A daddy's girl?
Not in like that I've seen, like not in a really big way, but we just sort of get on, and my wife gets on, probably connects more with her son and my son, and I sort of understand. I feel like I understand my daughter, and she struggles with my daughter a bit more than I do. Not 100%, but it's just that connection's there, just that little bit more of a connection. She may disagree with that, my wife, but I just think that's how it just rolls sometimes, and I try not to push that, try not to push myself and my kids to have that connection too much. I think I just wanted to see what naturally happens and, see what happens as an adult. Truth comes out, later on when they're old enough to tell you exactly how they feel, as I experienced a few nights ago. I've lost your question though, have I? Have I answered your question?
I think so. That's all right. That happens.
Yeah.
I get lost all the time.
Yeah. But no, I've a daughter. Yeah, love her to bits, and it's great. They actually, my two kids get on essentially really well. They sort of play fight, even 12, 14. I think they wouldn't say they love each other, but I think they do. They're very different children, different interests, different energies, different qualities. And so, God, I have no regrets of having the second one, but there was a bit more pressure on actually procreating with that intention of having one with a timeline in,
like planning it.
Yeah. And having that timeline where, we don't want more than 2 years apart. And, so it's like, I'm not feeling it. And it's like, no, we've got to go. It's time. It's like, fuck.
I'm on my cycle now.
Yeah. So go figure. It was the complete reverse, of what I experienced with her the first time. And I wasn't sure, I was like, I'm done. I'm good. I've got 2 healthy whole children, but, if I wouldn't take Lucy back in a heartbeat.
Yeah, because there is part of me that you are rolling the dice with what you get as well, right?
Like, yeah.
As I said, hoping for a healthy, happy.
Yeah. And I thought I'd struggle with a girl because I'd had 2 boys, so I was pretty versed in boys, and it was like, oh, great, we can hand me down, so we can, upcycle. But Lucy, I feel, is going to really be the one that looks after me when I'm old and senile, and she's got a caring, considerate. She already is that. She actually, even though she's 2 years younger than my son, she's just has that empathy and that connection with people. Sort of sees what's happening around her a little bit more. And I think it's a boy thing where he's very channeled. It's his coding and his gaming, and that's his world.
Especially at this age, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's your next 4 years is going to be pretty interesting, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And look, I didn't do a great job for my first teenage experience. There were times where we were literally grabbing each other by the scruff of the neck in the house, and that's something I'm proud of. And I just say, you're going to say shit and do shit that you're not going to be proud of. It just it taps into a part of you that dark side and that side that you think you'd never do. You know, say, I never want to be that parent, and before you know it, you're worse than whatever you imagined. That was my experience, and not, you know, fully, you know, I had to go to my children and apologise for my behaviour. And I could do better. You know, I should have known better. So, teenage years are really close
Testing.
coming by. Yeah. Oh, look, I don't know what's you know, I try not to. I sound like I might sort of put things in boxes, but I struggle with that terrible twos, all these stages that people, you know, it's like, you know, terrific, you know, it's just like, it just happens. Whatever happens, happens. And I try not to think about what's ahead of me, sort of like just day by day. But the thing with teenagers that really helped was I watched a TED Talk on the adolescent brain, and they've done functional MRIs where they can see the brain, what parts of the brain are active or, you know, hyperactive or underactive. And it didn't make the first time I experienced teenage years like a breeze, and I went, oh yeah, well, yeah, I've got it now. It just made me realise that what my son is going through is natural and normal, that his emotional brain is really, really super sensitive. His frontal lobe, where you sort of make, you know, good decisions, and you're thinking from other people's perspectives. You know what you're like. You didn't think of anyone else's opinions or perspectives. It was all about you, and all that part of that brain is actually, their brain is melting down. They call it synaptic pruning, where it's like a rose bush. They're just cutting what branches of the rose bush they don't need anymore and reforming for the new adult brain. So all those sorts of behaviours are normal and have been mapped and seen by science, and it just made me think, all right, my son's not fucked up, you know, or I'm not fucked up, and this is normal. And I branded it teenage spectrum disorder. You know, I gave it my own thing, because they will fluctuate from being an absolute angel to crazy, you know, just. You know, and but the thing that gave me, as far as teenage years, the comfort was what people said about my elder son, now 23, out in the surf when he was a surf instructor, and when they saw him surfing, they said, "Your son is amazing. He talks to anyone, you know, and he's great with kids." And I went, "All right, the outside world, as long as he's doing, the outside world sees him as a good person and good human, and what he is at home, we have to deal with, you know."
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And that just gave me comfort, I suppose.
Yeah, and I can imagine, because your kids were young, the two new ones to Alex were young at that age, right? So I can only imagine, you know, like, and this happened to me the other day where I was looking after my two nephews, and they were coming back from a wedding, and it was like they were hyped up on sugar, and I was like, man, I'm going to kill these kids. Like and you reflect, and you're like, man, I could have handled that so much better. But I can only imagine what it would have been like dealing with a teenager, and then
two younger kids
with sleep deprivation, as well as managing your work.
Yeah,
it's something that I think guys need to really recognise, that like it just happens.
Yeah,
but try and catch it, and then, or at least reflect on it.
Yeah,
and so that it doesn't happen again. So
I think I struggle with being present. What I think a lot of us do, you know, just being present, not thinking about work or, you know, other things that you have to deal with, and being present with your children. One of the benefits I found when I separated from my first wife, and I used to have my son sort of 4 days on, whatever it was we worked out, was that I actually was more of a present dad, being a single parent, because there was no one else to go, oh, just look after him in the play, and then come back in when I felt present, you know, when I didn't want to feel present. And so there was parts of it that was really interesting, because I think I was a more present dad when we were separated. And then the other side was you got some respite. You got 3 or 4 days or whatever the time span was to just be yourself and not be a parent, you know, directly hands-on.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like, wasn't too bad. It was when I added another family into the mix where I was like, all right, he's with us this week, he's not. And, you know, I'm just finding out now through, you know, our first open conversation of what it was like, that I think I'm going to hear a bit more how much of a struggle that was for him. But he loves his two siblings, you know. We don't talk half brothers or sisters, you know, they're his brother and sister. But I don't think it was easy on him, and we're going to unpack that, I think, in the next few months, having chats over the phone. And I'm grateful for that, you know. I've just got I'd rather know it than not, and, you know.
Yeah, and that's a credit to you as well, being open to feedback, because I know a lot of fathers wouldn't want to hear that kind of stuff.
Well, I said to him, actually, glad I know it now, not while I'm on my deathbed. Yeah. You know, for some people, leave it to the deathbed. And I said, no, because we can build. And I sent him a text yesterday, and he just replied today. And he said, yeah, he just looks forward to deepening our relationship. And I'm just, you know, I'm excited. I think I wish for being close to my children when they're adults, and, you know, when they're partnered and they've had children. I really hope that. I can't guarantee it, though. I don't know if my kids want anything to do with me when they get older.
They'll need someone to mind the grandchildren.
Maybe.
Because it happens.
It will happen.
I feel like now that we've got, Phil's had a little, my nephew, and I've got a baby on the way, my parents are very involved in our lives again.
Yeah,
and we kind of separated for a while there to find ourselves and mature and figure out what's going on in our lives. And then
add some years.
Yeah, and then some more years, and then double it, and then come 42, you're ready to have kids, and and then I feel like I've always been very close to my mum and dad, and I had to make the effort, and I love how you said before that you don't pressure your oldest child to say, you need to come and see me, we need to make this time. Like, you leave it up to them to want to come and see you, and give them not put that pressure on them, because that's what my mum did as well. She's like, I'm never going to be that mum that makes you come and see me. I want you to come and see me when you want to come and see me. And I think that's a lovely kind of, and that makes me want to see her more. Right? It's kind of that reverse psychology. Step away, and then you'll want them in your lives. And I just think as you get older and you have kids, not only do you want them around more, you need them around. Yeah,
I mean, they would be your greatest teachers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're your gurus. You know, people are looking for. You know, they're the guru, you know, and we slowly probably erode some of that guruness through our own, you know, influences and the world around us. But they are the greatest teachers. Everyone's a guru to me, you know, but my children have probably taught me more about myself than anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We might wrap it up, but I'd like to finish with, is there any final advice or words of wisdom that you would instill in... I put you under pressure. Anything just anything, any advice you'd give any dads out there, or that what's the biggest lesson you've learned, or the biggest advice anyone gave you to being a parent?
All right. So I reflect. Look, you can only reflect on what it was like in my childhood. And when my dad was on his deathbed, and I was flying to Perth, from the Gold Coast to Perth, to see him, and he was not conscious and he was on his way out. And a friend of mine said to me before I left, he said, is there anything you want to sort of talk to your dad about? And, you know, before he goes, you know, clear the air, whatever. And it was a good question. And I did think about it, and had, you know, a good 4 or 5 hours, and, you know, the guys were looking after me because I got a cheap ticket and I got there really quickly, and he was still alive in hospital, but he was unconscious, and I saw him die, you know, I saw him pass, you know, and that was probably one of the greatest gifts he ever gave me. And to see him pass, I could have walked out the room, could have gone to the toilet, he could have gone, but he allowed me to see that, experience that. And, you know, but on the way to seeing him, I thought two conclusions I came with that question in mind was, I always felt loved and I always felt wanted. And whatever he didn't do, and didn't take me to the footy, because he worked 6-7 days a week, he didn't do a lot of things with me, you know, father-son, because he was working a lot, trying to provide me to, you know, to send me to the best school, one of the best schools in Australia. And I sort of went, I think I'm good with that. I found other people, for other men, other families to do things with, take me to the footy or, drop me off there or whatever. But I never felt that, not once did I feel unloved and not wanted, just like my dad could actually see me, eyeball me, we could kiss me and say, I love you. And to the day, the last conversation we had. And I think that's all your children really give a shit about. I don't care what car you drive or what house you live. And just to feel loved and wanted, like you want them to be in your life was, I think, thing that I took from that as a son and as a future father. I went, yeah, as long as my kids know that from time to time I say, I tell you how much I love you, or it doesn't always have to be in words, it's just actions. It's a lot of it's behind the scenes, that they don't know that you're doing that, cleaning up after them, just like sucking it up, just frustrated as all fuck, but you just go,
acts of service.
Acts of service. It's like this morning, every day, it's just like act of service. And that's what I'd probably say, just make them feel loved and wanted, and you've done a pretty good job, a really great job.
Awesome. Great advice. Thanks, Allan.
Yeah, thanks, Allan.
Such a pleasure.
Thanks for coming in. And we'll see everyone.
Did you want to give you...
Do you want to give any details out for to contact you for anything?
Not really. No, I'm good. Got my hands full. Thank you for the opportunity.
Just in case like Ryan Reynolds is listening and wants a massage from Hugh Jackman.
I'm happy with any of you guys. I don't pick or choose. Whatever comes through my door and is a blessing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time and for coming in and sharing your stories.
Thanks for inviting me.
There's a lot of valuable information there that we can take away.
100%.
Distill.
Thanks, Allan.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you, man.
Awesome. And see everyone.
Bye.